pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. Today is Wednesday, October 2nd, 2024. The time being 5:30 p.m. The meeting of the Greensburg Board of Works is called to order. Amy, would you please call the roll?
Jamie Kane.
Here.
Lauren Huber. Robin Meyer.
Here.
Len Tubby.
Here.
Mayor Joshua Marsh.
Here. You all should have received a copy of the minutes from the September 10th, 2024 meeting. Any edits, additions, or corrections to those? If not, they'll stand approved as presented. Okay. There being no old business, we'll jump directly to new business. Julie Nobbe is with us this evening with a couple of items. First item, Julie, is the updates to the city employee handbook.
Yes, I think all of you should have received a red line copy. Started with that. We started with the handbook probably at the beginning of the year. Started with like a work group of employees, and then any changes that I've kind of accumulated over the last couple years. Everybody brought their ideas forth, and then we went to a handbook committee made up of 2 council members, 2 Board of Works members, Amy and myself, and then we kind of refined those changes, and so the red line copy you got is what we all agreed on at that handbook committee meeting. Do you guys have any questions, or would you like me to go over some of the things that we're changing? Okay. So one of the things that we are changing is adding in a paid parental leave policy. It would allow 2 weeks of paid time off in addition to any PTO or sick leave or compensatory time that they have off. Bereavement leave, we added in some wording for allowing 3 days off for a brother-in-law or sister-in-law. Unpaid leave of absence. In the current handbook, it had a requirement of 1 year of employment before you could take an unpaid leave of absence. We kind of took that out so that if somebody was hired within that first year, they could still have that unpaid leave of absence, allowing them to be on our health insurance. The unpaid leave of absence does have to be approved by the board of, or committee appointed by the mayor, I believe. PTO. The biggest change we're doing with that is the accrual rate that you earn from 0 to 1 years is at a lower rate than like the 1 to 5 year employee. We're taking that out. A lot of feedback came from the department heads that sometimes it's very difficult to get those new hires with just a little bit of PTO. There's also wording in there that you can't take any PTO time off in the first 6 months. We're also removing that. So basically, as soon as you earn that PTO time, you can use it as long as it's approved by your supervisor. However, we added in some wording that you can't be paid out for PTO if you leave before your 1 year anniversary. Let's see.
After 1 year, it's all paid out.
You can pay out PTO up to 120 hours, but we added in some wording that you have to give a 2-week notice. And then we also added in some wording that if you give a 3-month notice, we would pay out up to 160 hours. Group sick bank, we added in there that they could also contribute comp time as an option. I just got feedback back this morning from our attorney, and I need to talk to him about that because I don't think we can do that, but I need to get confirmation from him on that. Personal sick bank. So at an employee's anniversary, if you have more than 4 weeks of PTO built up, any additional hours roll over into the personal sick bank. Normally, the only time you can get into that personal sick bank for a medical leave or an illness is if your PTO is below 40 hours. We're now increasing that to if your PTO is at the equivalent of 2 weeks' time or 80 hours for a 40-hour-a-week employee, that you can now get in your personal sick bank at the 80-hour mark or 2-week mark, 70 hours for a 35 and 112 for a fire department. Let's see here. Shift moves for the fire department. We had some wording added for that. Sometimes when a firefighter is required required to move from shift A to shift B or C, they might not hit their 212 hours in a 4-week pay period. And so then I was, in turn, not paying them 212 hours. I was basically taking comp time so that we would pay them for actual hours worked. That hasn't been their practice in the past, so they would like something in the handbook that would allow me to not cut any pay if they don't hit that 212 hours because of a required shift move. Added some wording in the handbook for lateral hires. We just passed that policy at the last month meeting, so just added in a little paragraph about lateral hires to basically refer to our lateral hire policy. And then emergency call-in, just trying to be consistent from all the departments, making sure that if anybody gets called in for an emergency, that they're going to get 3 hours of overtime for emergency call-in at time and a half. Scheduled overtime is going to be treated differently. They wouldn't necessarily get a 3-hour minimum for a scheduled overtime. And then a few other minor changes, correcting maybe some errors and some wording in the handbook. Another minor change I thought was changing the he's, she's to they's, theirs, them's. That's a very quick summary. I will add that the attorney that is reviewing the handbook, he did not have time to talk on the phone until this Friday. So there might be some minor tweaks between this meeting and the next meeting, just making sure that he agrees with everything we put in there.
The paid parental leave, do you anticipate using that quite a bit? I mean, has that been okay. I mean, that's a nice offer.
Yeah,
nice benefits offer.
I'm going to guess maybe 3 employees a year
But
on
still,
average.
Yeah, nice
We
thing to
don't
offer.
have a lot.
Not a lot
But,
of
you know,
employers do.
it might help a little bit, you know, especially for a father that, you know, wants to be home for just a couple weeks. They wouldn't have to tap into all their PTO.
Julie, I know you've put a lot of time to this, and I know that the committee that you've been working with, made up of all of our departments, put a lot of time into it, so thanks for helping get it all updated. I know we did this, I think, in 21, so it's time to...
Yeah, it was effective January of 22, and it's a good idea just to review your handbook every 3 years at least, and just tweak it a little bit here and there if it needs to be.
Any other questions for Julie on the handbook?
So effective date, once
I would like effective date to be January 1.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's why I'm trying to get this month and next month for the council to approve it as an ordinance.
So, yeah, that's what I was just gonna follow up with, is we are presenting the ordinance to the council tonight for first reading, and really hoping that we just do the first reading with
Why are you looking at me like that?
with your blessing. This is totally, yeah. Because she wants to follow up with our attorney to make sure that everything is square, in case there are any tweaks that need to be done. But we would love to take your blessing to the council this evening that you are approving of the major changes, barring any small.
I'll make a motion that we support the recommendation to approve the handbook changes.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. Now, job descriptions.
Job descriptions, we started that in May, basically getting all the job descriptions gathered up. Brian Williams, our intern for the summer, worked a lot of time on this over the summer. He collected all the job descriptions from the different departments. They each had time to read through the job description, find out if they still need it. If they do, are there any changes that need to be done? So then they would sign off on the changes, or let us know if they no longer use the job description. So you should have had 2 big files, or more than 2. One was red line copies of all the job descriptions, and then the department head signing off on those, and then a revised copy. After Ryan got them all together, we then sent them to Wagoner, Irwin, and Shilley up in Muncie. They've done our job descriptions in the past. They kind of review them again, make sure everything's in order, and then they sent back the final copies.
A lot of work.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's what, 30 or 40 of them. So would really just like your approval so that we can start using those job descriptions in the future.
So they would be approved as of tonight and not necessarily,
Yeah, I think the revised date on most of them is September of '24, so we could, ideally we would have employees, current employees, go ahead and sign a new job description here within the next month, and then any new employees would sign the new ones.
well, I'm assuming that all the supervisors have said yes to these, and
I have not been any responses of changes that need to be done.
I would move approval, or I am moving approval.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thanks, Julie. Thanks for all your work.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
A lot of work.
Okay, Amy, you have the book or the sales agreement for the fire department book.
Yes, so in February, we approved a contract with Winter Publishing to get the books published for the 150th anniversary for the fire department. That is moving along as planned and scheduled. I just wanted to bring forth the plan for the sale of those books, which was discussed in February but was never set in stone. So I shared with you all a memo of the plan. There are 200 books total, but only 170 of those are going to be sold. There are 30 that are, and he said this in February, Brian Wayne said this in February, he said that there were about 30 that he thought were going to be donated to retired firemen and a few other people. So those will be the ones that will be sold. We've got a plan in place, internal controls, checks and balances, all that stuff. So I just wanted the agreement to be approved.
I read through it this afternoon, and very thorough, very clear, well done. So unless my colleagues have questions, I'm well satisfied.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. Chief McNeely, your first item is police cars and equipment.
Good evening, Board. You should have received some quotes in your packet. One would be for a police car, which is a Dodge Charger Pursuit all-wheel drive. You'll notice it does say 2023 on it. That is accurate. It's old stock sitting on the lot. We purchased one of those earlier this year as well. It's actually getting completed this week. We should be getting it back finally. So we're looking at purchasing another one of those this year. There's funds in the budget for that. And then there are, with that, another quote from ERS Wireless, and that is for the equipment that needs to go into it as well as the installation cost. I did find one thing when I went back over it for a final time. It's $100 we'll be able to knock off for a piece of equipment that we don't need in it. I mean, it's nothing compared to the entire quote, but a little bit. This is going to be replacing one of the ones that got turned in as we're getting new cars. We were hoping for it to be in a little bit better shape when it came back in, but mileage is super high, and interior is, if I was a new officer coming in and somebody gave that to me, I would be a little upset. So just well worn and used.
How long does a patrol car usually last?
We can, for sure, 5 years, sometimes 7 years. Since we've hired the city mechanic, we no longer do it as a yearly rotation. We now do it as mileage.
What's your mileage on it?
We try to get over 80 to 85,000 on them. Sometimes the one that's turned in is just under 100,000, and those are hard city stop sign to stop sign miles. So transmissions are usually pretty worn out by the time we get them. They've been through multiple brakes and tires, and a lot more than what your normal vehicle would do on a daily driver.
How many patrol cars do we have?
Patrol cars, we have 17.
Any other questions for the chief on that? As he did mention, we looked at to the budget. We were supposed to buy 2 earlier this year. We only bought 1.
Correct.
So,
Bet you can get one. You said one
The other problem I had was when I started calling around, because we like the Ford SUVs, we've talked about that before. I called Ford up and they had one that was fire engine red, and I don't think my guys would appreciate that, being that all the other ones are black. He couldn't guarantee that I could get one in this current year. We already are in talks with them for one at 25. I'll be coming back to you for discussion of that, of using the 25 budget.
any other questions? If not, would entertain a motion to approve the purchase of the cart and the equipment as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. How about the radios?
So you should also have in there a purchase order agreement. It's more of an agreement with ERS, same company. This is for 6 handheld radios, like the one that we carry on our hips. So the cost on those, you can see there, just shy of $5,000 per. We have a few that have that are still under warranty, can be serviced by Motorola. The majority of our radios have reached end of life, and so we need to start thinking about replacement of those. I do have some extra funding left over in our vehicle purchase line, actually, and so I can absorb this without any additional funding. We've also been told by IPSC, which is the state radio people that run the radios, that there's a phase 2 project coming that would make all of our older ones bricks. They wouldn't even work because there's some changes in the bandwidth that they're going to be doing. So we know that that's a large purchase project that's going to be coming up. And if we have some funding now to take care of some of that, then we want to go ahead and start to be a little proactive in getting some of the newer ones that are phase 2 compliant.
Cost doing business.
Unfortunately.
Technology keeps moving. Do you know about how many of the phase 2 non-compliant you have?
Do we have 4?
Sorry, I'm sorry, sir.
I think we have 4.
So this would get all the phase 1s.
This would get 10 of our, no, yeah, 10 of our,
The 4 that are phase 2 compliant?
yeah,
And the rest are not phase 2
correct.
compliant?
Yeah. We
This
still-
is replacing the phase 1.
Yes.
10 capable phase 2.
Right. And states, I shouldn't say refusing, they've not made the determination of when they're gonna set that date. We know it's not gonna be a, hey, we're setting it and it's turning off tomorrow. We know they're gonna give agencies a year or 2, maybe even 3 to get that done. But if we can get ahead of it now, I'd rather do that.
Any other questions for the chief on that? If not, would entertain a motion to approve the 6 radios as presented.
Second.
Motion's been made second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Street Commissioner Klosterkemper, a couple items. First one is disposal of the wooden barricades.
Good evening. We are slowly getting everything moved to our new facility, and we've got some items we want to dispose of. We have the old wooden barricades that we have not used except for on the Eagles Wing, uses it each year out at St. Mary's. I have spoke to a couple of people that lead that project for St. Mary's, and they would be happy to take them since we're going to be otherwise just throwing them away. And they're willing to keep them upgraded a little bit and store them so they have them for future years. So I'm asking if we could do that. We also have some old concrete barricades that we don't use for anything, and I just want to get those hauled off and gone from the site we currently have them at.
They don't have any monetary value. They're just old 2x4s on a stand, right?
Yeah.
Pretty much. Okay.
They were all made.
And you don't use them for any other purpose?
Mm-mm. And they do use them, so I thought they could get some life out of them. And I talked to the Walters today, Tom Moran, and he said, yeah, we'd love to have them. And apparently they've got plenty of storage space in the new building they built there behind the school.
Do they intend to set them up and take them down as a part of the 5K then, so you wouldn't be responsible for doing that
Correct.
either? Perfect. Okay.
Win-win.
Sounds like a win. Is there a motion to approve that as presented?
So
To
moved.
dispose of those?
Second?
Motion's been made and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, the other item we got to get rid of, we've got some furniture that did not leave the old building. I don't know, the metal desk and a couple of metal filing cabinets, probably, you've seen them, 50s, the 1950s. So I don't know if Maddox doesn't even take them. If not, we're gonna scrap them, the metal ones. There is a wooden desk set that I think the mayor used during the interim renovation of this building over at Washington School. And after that, I used it for the last couple of years. And I thought we'd take that maybe to Maddox's, because I don't think anybody else has ever used it here within the city.
We can probably add it to our disposal list for the fire department too, but I don't think the metal desk will have any value. So I guess the question is, up to Mark's discretion, is how to dispose of the remaining furniture. Is that fair, Mark?
I'll make that motion.
And there's a few odd pieces of equipment laying around, like we got weed eaters that have laid back in the corner for the last 15 years. I'm gonna get rid of all that and scrap that, but at the same time, I'm getting rid of the other metal items. And then return them, whatever proceeds we get back to the MVH fund.
Second.
Motion's been made and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
One last thing, there was a fire over on a house at 431 North Ireland. Contractor has just gotten authorization from the insurance company to go in and start demolition. He can't place a dumpster on North Ireland Street because it's a state highway route. And he's approached about closing an alley right next door to the property for a temporary basis of about 10 days. He estimates he'll have about 200 wheelbarrow loads of drywall and interior off of the inside walls. And he'd really like to put that dumpster in that alley if he could. And I don't see an issue with it. We'll provide enclosures, and he'll have it out of there within 10 days of installation.
About the neighbors.
There's one neighbor that utilizes it, but the cross alley is just as good, and we're only closing half of it. In other words, from the cross out to Ireland Street, we'll leave the north-south alley open and the balance of the east-west alley over to Anderson Street.
Any issues with that? If not, we'll just,
Short term, it's at a piece, so.
thanks for that update.
Do we need to actually approve it for approval or just?
Because I think it was more for a point of information. I don't know if
Okay.
you need a full-on approval.
The ordinance
Since
isn't
it's an alley.
specific about the alleys, it is about the streets.
Yeah.
So I brought it to your attention just so you'd
Thank
be
you.
aware of it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Zach, you've got a couple items for us this evening, the first of which is the locator and rotor quote.
Good evening, Board.
Evening.
You will see the quote for the utility locator and rodder is very similar to the one you approved last month for the street department. We did decide to get the same locator so that everybody needed one, they could share it, and everybody knew how to use it. So that is for the stormwater use, to be able to locate storm lines throughout the city. The rodder will go along with that to help us identify the location of the pipes for the stormwater. It is used to push into the pipe, and then the locator can pick up the rodder to trace it out on top of the street. And then once it's all laid out on the street, then we'll be able to go shoot with GPS and locate it and put it into the GIS system. So two benefits of that is able to locate our stormwater for construction purposes, make sure it doesn't get damaged. And then part of the MS4 requirements is the mapping and inventory of our stormwater system, so.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, now the next stormwater thing, South Broadway.
Thank you. The quote you have is to do some inlet work on South Broadway. There's 11 inlets or so down through there for the stormwater system that's believe never got elevated with repaving of the street, so they're sunken below the pavement is what it appears to be, but like I said, it probably just never got brought up. There's a few that are in the street that we can move out to the curb line where they belong more, and there's some that are just damaged and really do need replaced for safety's sake. So this quote covers excavation, either repair, maintenance, replacement, relocation, backfilling with flowable fill, and then asphalt back on top.
They did this same Corbin Excavations. They did this similar work for us in a different neighborhood, and we were very satisfied with their work. Is that fair?
Yeah, they've done 2 recent projects for the city, one going through Rolling Meadows and bringing all those curb inlets up because they started to come down, and then they also did a drainage way project over on Independence. In that area, did a really good job with the ditch work and riprap work, so they've done very well for the city so far.
How long will this take?
2 weeks, 3 weeks maybe. There'll be some lane closures and some workarounds, and they've told me upon approval they'll start ordering materials and getting everything lined up to get it done this year.
You should be able to finish it then before bad weather comes.
Yep.
Any other questions for Zach on that? If not, we'll take a motion to approve the contract with Corbin Excavations for the South Broadway work.
So moved.
Second.
Perfect. All those, motion been made second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed. Okay, RFP for the Veritas Group.
Veritas Group gave us a proposal for contract to develop the RFP for the old fire station building. Along with developing the RFP, obviously they will send it out to 200 plus companies that they have in their contacts list, and then do the public ads and all that required for part of the process. Upon receipt of that proposals, they will help the city as requested go through those, and then negotiations, agreements, and basically assist as needed. The contract is not a set dollar amount. It is a not to exceed. So if we decide we don't need them for something and don't want to bring them into a decision or review process, it's not a requirement. They bill based on what they do, and that's it.
We don't really have, I know that we have other things to do besides market or negotiate with regard to use of property, but we don't have any other immediate thoughts or suggestions or ideas that we think need to be pursued with regard to that property before we would make it something that's more broadly commercial, broadly marketed.
Yeah, that's a great, so it's been widely talked about for the last 18 to 24 months. There hasn't been an internal need identified. I haven't been approached with as a city use. There have been some other public agencies that have expressed some interest in it, but not to the level of finality or completion. So I think probably the next best thing is to find what it can be. It can still be a public use, public-private use for it may be. We've had a very good working relationship doing this exact same thing through the redevelopment commission on the lot downtown where the old jail was. So I feel very comfortable in them helping us navigate this process. Obviously, there's a whole legal process for disposing of property that we have not even started. And if there's an internal use, I've not been made aware of it yet.
Nor have I.
Right.
Did, okay. And
But there would still be opportunity for that from either us or
right, it
or
doesn't
other
preclude,
public.
right, I agree.
It doesn't preclude anybody,
Mhm.
yes.
Mhm.
believe part of the requirements for disposing of the property is this RFP process. I don't think we can do anything without this first step.
Short of giving it to another agency or something like that, yeah, I agree. We have to at least pursue Central Park.
Well, I agree. I think the Veritas Group has been, we've been well satisfied with them, and they've been very, very good.
This is a different division of the Veritas Group too. It's not the
I'm-
same.
Yeah, I'm assuming that if
Same.
similar leadership there,
Yeah.
and responsibility, so.
Is there a motion to approve the agreement with the Veritas Group?
Yeah, the longer that thing sits empty, the bigger problem it may become, so I would move approval.
Second.
Motion's been made and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, you all should have received a copy of your claims. Any edits, additions, or corrections to those? If not, motion to approve those is presented.
So moved.
Motion's been made by Jamie.
Second.
Second, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Quick reminder that our final public safety cookout is October 10th down on Scobie Street. It is going to take over the whole block down there, so please come down and participate. It's once again open to anyone and everyone that would like to participate, and it's the last one for the year, so we hope for slightly warmer weather and less wind and rain than we've had the last ones of the year, the other years we've done. Anything else, Board?
Just wanted to thank Mayor, you, your office, the city of Greensburg, all the department heads for all the work they did helping our fall festival be a success. We had record crowds other than the 130-degree heat we had Saturday afternoon. It was a great crowd. It was a great event. We had great entertainment, great national anthem singer. Thank you very much. So the fall festival appreciates everything. It takes the whole city to pull that off, and it was a pretty good year. So thanks to everybody for doing that. Appreciate it.
Well, thanks, Robin, to you and the whole committee that's behind that. I know Mark does a lot on it too. There's a ton of people that help put it together. I was there both nights. It seemed like a really great event once again. So now we're on to the 2025 one, right?
That's right.
Be here before we know it. Anything else? Not take a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made by Glenn. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed. Thanks, everyone.